Captain Du-hyun stood at the main viewing window of the research vessel Stellar Seeker, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue planet below. He couldn't believe what the sensors were telling him. His outer eyes blinked rapidly while his inner ones remained focused on the swirling clouds covering most of the planet's surface. "Captain, the readings are correct," Science Officer Kita said from his station. "The surface is 71% covered in dihydrogen monoxide." Kita's scales shifted from their usual green to a worried yellow color. Do-hyun turned away from the window. "That's impossible. No intelligent life could evolve on such a world." He walked to the main computer display, his footsteps echoing on the metal floor. "Show me the population scans again." The holographic display lit up, showing billions of life signs spread across the planet's surface. Most of these creatures lived near the edges of the massive water bodies. Some even built floating structures on top of the deadly liquid. 7 billion sentient beings, Kita read from his screen. "And they call themselves humans." He pronounced the strange word carefully. Do-hyun remembered his training at the Galactic Academy. Every student learned that water-dominant planets meant certain death. Water dissolved protective shells and skin. It rusted metal. It drowned creatures in its depths. Yet here was a civilization that didn't just survive, it thrived. "Send a probe," Do-hyun ordered. "I want to see these humans up close." The probe launched silently from the ship's belly. As it entered the atmosphere, its cameras activated, sending back the first clear images of Earth's surface. The crew gathered around the main screen, their bodies tense with curiosity and fear. The first images showed a place the humans called a beach. The aliens watched in horror as hundreds of small humans ran straight into the water. Their parents stood nearby, showing no concern as their children splashed in what should have been deadly liquid. "Are they trying to kill their young?" Assistant researcher Neri asked, her voice shaking. She was the youngest crew member, fresh from the academy. "No," Kita said, checking his readings. "Their vital signs show enjoyment. They're playing in it." The probe moved to another location, showing large structures filled with artificial water bodies. Humans dove into these swimming pools on purpose. They held competitions to see who could move through the water the fastest. Do-hyun sat in his captain's chair, trying to make sense of it all. In his 30 years of space exploration, he had never seen anything like this. The Galactic Confederation had always taught that water planets were death worlds, places to be marked on star charts with warning signs. "Captain," Communications Officer Ta-won called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface. They've spotted our probe." "Put it on the main screen," Do-hyun ordered. The screen flickered to life, showing the human female in what appeared to be an official uniform. She spoke in her language, which the ship's computers quickly translated. "This is Dr. Yoon-hee of the International Space Agency. We've detected your probe in Earth's atmosphere. We come in peace and welcome peaceful contact." The crew looked at their captain. Do-hyun stood up, straightening his uniform. This was a historic moment. First contact with a species that defied everything they knew about survival. "Send our standard greeting package," he told Ta-won. "But add a request. I want to know how they do it. How do they survive with so much water?" The answer came back quickly. Dr. Yoon-hee's face showed what the computer identified as a smile, a friendly expression. "Perhaps it would be better if we showed you. We invite your research team to visit our Marine Biology Center in Busan. There you can see for yourself how humans interact with water." The crew's scales shifted through various colors of surprise and uncertainty. Visit the surface. Actually go near those vast water bodies. Do-hyun made his decision. The Confederation needed to know about this. All their knowledge about habitable worlds might need to be rewritten. "Tell them we accept," he said. "Prepare the heavy protection suits. We leave in 6 hours." As the crew rushed to prepare for the surface mission, Do-hyun returned to the viewing window. The blue planet spun below them, its oceans glittering in the sunlight. How had they been so wrong about water worlds? What else could these humans teach them? Keita joined him at the window. Captain, the Science Council will never believe this. Water planets have been classified as death worlds for 10,000 years. Then it's time for that classification to change, Do-hyun replied. Prepare all recording equipment. Everything we see down there needs to be documented. In the ship's laboratory, Neri tested the protective suits. They were designed to withstand the most corrosive environments known to the Confederation. But would they be enough against Earth's vast oceans? She checked each seal 3 times, knowing their lives might depend on them. The landing shuttle was prepared, its hull reinforced against water exposure. The medical team loaded emergency treatments for liquid contamination. Nobody knew if their standard procedures would work on this strange world. As the chosen team suited up, Do-hyun addressed them. We're about to challenge everything we think we know about habitable planets. Stay alert. Watch everything. And most importantly, try to understand how these humans have mastered what we've always feared. The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing Earth's blue surface below. Do-hyun led his team into the shuttle, each step heavy with the weight of their protective gear. As they launched toward the surface, he couldn't help but wonder. Would this discovery change everything? Or would the water planet prove as deadly as they'd always believed? The answer waited below, in the waves that both terrified and fascinated them. Humanity was about to show the galaxy that water wasn't a barrier to life. It was its cradle. The landing shuttle touched down at Busan's International Marine Research Center just as the sun was rising over the ocean. Captain Do-hyun led his team out of the craft, each step careful and measured in their heavy protection suits. The morning breeze carried tiny water droplets that made their sensors buzz with warning signals. Dr. Yoon-hee waited for them at the entrance, accompanied by her research team. She wore nothing but what the aliens' database identified as a light jacket and jeans. No protective gear at all. The alien suits recorded humidity levels that should have been causing severe skin damage to the humans, yet they stood there, completely at ease. Welcome to Earth, Dr. Yoon-hee said, bowing slightly. We're honored to be your first hosts. She seemed amused by their bulky suits but politely didn't mention them. Keita's sensors were working overtime, analyzing everything around them. The air contains 3% water vapor, he reported nervously to Do-hyun through their internal comm system. Captain, even the air they breathe is partly water. Please follow me, Dr. Yoon-hee said, leading them into the building. We've prepared several demonstrations to help you understand our relationship with water. The first stop was a large room with a transparent wall showing an enormous water tank. Inside, human researchers in simple black suits moved through the water as easily as the aliens moved through air. They were studying a group of Earth creatures called dolphins. These are our marine biology students, Dr. Yoon-hee explained. They're conducting research on dolphin communication patterns. She turned to face the aliens. Would you like to see the underwater observation room? Do-hyun's team huddled together nervously. Go underwater. Voluntarily. But their mission required thorough investigation. We would be honored, Do-hyun said, his voice slightly shaky even through the suit's speakers. The underwater observation room had thick glass walls holding back millions of liters of ocean water. The alien team checked their suit seals 3 times before entering. Young Neri's scales had turned pure white, a sign of extreme stress. Look at them, Keita whispered, watching the human students swim. They move like they were born in it. He was recording everything, knowing the Science Council would need extensive proof. A new human entered the room, wearing a white coat over her clothes. This is Dr. Minji, our lead researcher on human aquatic adaptations, Dr. Yoon-hee introduced. Dr. Minji smiled warmly. I understand you're curious about how we survive in water. Would you like to see some of our early development footage? She played a video on a large screen. It showed human babies, only a few months old, being gently placed in small pools of water. Instead of dissolving or dying, the babies naturally held their breath and moved their limbs in a swimming motion. We're born with these abilities, Dr. Minji explained. Every human baby has what we call the diving reflex. It's a remnant of our evolutionary past. Neri stepped closer to the screen, fascination temporarily overcoming her fear. They don't need any training. The young ones just know what to do. Basic swimming instincts are natural, Dr. Minji confirmed, though we do need training for more advanced swimming techniques. The next demonstration took place at the center's Olympic-sized swimming pool. The aliens watched from behind a safety barrier as human athletes dove into the water, their bodies cutting through it with incredible speed and precision. These are some of our Olympic hopefuls, Dr. Yumhee said proudly. They train for hours every day in the water. Do-hyun couldn't take his eyes off the swimmers. They make it look so natural, he said. His outer eyes blinked rapidly as he tried to process what he was seeing. Like they're flying through it. A small group of school children had gathered to watch the aliens. They giggled at the huge protective suits, pointing and whispering to each other. One brave little boy stepped forward and waved. "Would you like to see us swim?" the boy asked innocently. Before the alien team could respond, the children ran to the pool's shallow end and jumped in, laughing and splashing. Neri's sensors nearly overloaded from her spike of panic, but the children were clearly fine. More than fine, they were having fun. "Captain," Kita said privately through their comm system, "this changes everything we know about species development. Water worlds aren't death traps. They're just different cradles of life." Dr. Minji noticed their intense interest in the children. "Would you like to understand how our bodies are adapted to water? I can show you our research labs." The labs were filled with displays showing human physiology. Dr. Minji explained how human skin was waterproof, how their bodies could regulate temperature in water, and how their lungs could extract oxygen from air even with high moisture content. But the most interesting part, she said, pulling up a detailed genetic display, is that many of these adaptations appear in other Earth species too. We believe similar traits might be found in species across the galaxy. They just need the right conditions to express themselves. This caught Do-hyun's attention immediately. "Are you suggesting other species could learn to survive in water? With the right genetic activation and training, why not?" Dr. Minji smiled. "We've already seen remarkable adaptability in Earth species. The same principles might apply to alien physiology." As the day went on, the alien team's fears slowly gave way to fascination. They watched water sports, saw ships in the harbor, and observed humans fishing in the ocean. Each demonstration showed a different way humans had mastered their water-rich environment. At sunset, Dr. Yumhee took them to the beach. The alien team stood at a safe distance, watching families enjoy the last warm rays of the day. Children built castles from wet sand, while others rode the waves on boards. "I know this all seems strange to you," Dr. Yumhee said gently. "But water isn't our enemy. It's the source of all life on Earth. We've learned to work with it, not against it." Do-hyun looked out over the ocean, its surface turning golden in the setting sun. "We've been wrong," he said finally. "All these years, we've been wrong about water worlds. Think of how many planets we've marked as uninhabitable, how many possibilities we've missed." As they prepared to return to their ship, Dr. Yumhee made an offer that would change galactic history. "We would be happy to help the Confederation understand water environments better," she said. "Perhaps we could start a joint research program." Do-hyun looked at his team. Kita was still recording everything. Neri had relaxed enough that her scales showed hints of green curiosity. Even through their protective suits, he could see how this single day had transformed their understanding of what was possible. "We would be honored," Do-hyun replied. "I believe this is the beginning of something revolutionary." As their shuttle lifted off, the team watched the sun sink into the vast ocean. Tomorrow, they would begin writing reports that would shake the foundations of galactic science. But tonight, they all had the same thought. How many other wonders had they missed by fearing water worlds? And what else could these remarkable humans teach them? 3 months after the first contact with Earth, the Galactic Confederation's main science center buzzed with activity. Dr. Haynewell's laboratory had transformed into the headquarters of the newly formed Water World Research Initiative. Screens covered the walls, showing data from Earth's oceans and human swimming patterns. "Look at this again," Dr. Minji said, pointing to a genetic display. She had traveled from Earth to help the alien scientists understand human water adaptation. "The genes that help humans move in water aren't unique to us. We found similar inactive genes in your species too." Kaita, now working as the lead alien researcher, studied the display carefully. His scales showed the deep blue color of deep thought. "But our genes never activated because we feared water so much," he said. "We never gave them a chance to develop." In another part of the lab, young Neri worked with human swimming instructors. She had volunteered to be the first alien to try entering water without a full protection suit. She wore only a thin waterproof covering, similar to human swimwear. "Remember what we practiced," Instructor Seijin said gently. "The water will help you float. Don't fight it." He stood in the shallow pool, holding out his hands to help her. Neri's scales flickered between white fear and green curiosity. She remembered the human children playing in water. If they could do it, why couldn't she? Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the pool. "The water, it's not burning me," she said in surprise. Her natural scales provided more protection than anyone had expected. She took another step, then another. "I'm doing it." The whole lab burst into applause. Captain Du-hyun, who had been promoted to research director, recorded everything. "This is historic," he said, "the first alien to willingly enter water." But this was just the beginning. Dr. Minji's team made another exciting discovery. They found that exposure to water actually activated dormant genes in the aliens' bodies. The more time they spent near water, the more their bodies adapted. "It's like waking up parts of ourselves that have been sleeping for thousands of years," Kita explained to the Science Council. His own scales had developed a new waterproof coating after just 2 months of water exposure. The news spread quickly through the galaxy. Species that had avoided water planets for generations suddenly saw new possibilities. The Confederation's mapmakers began updating their charts, removing the death world warning from thousands of water-rich planets. Dr. Haynewell's team focused on understanding how different species could adapt to water environments. They discovered that each species had its own unique way of handling water. Some developed better waterproof coverings. Others found they could float naturally. A few even started growing small gills. "Every species carries the memory of water in their genes," Dr. Minji explained during a galactic science conference. "Water wasn't our enemy. We just needed to remember how to live with it." Back in the research pool, Neri had become an excellent swimmer. She helped other aliens overcome their fear of water. "Don't think about what you've been taught," she would tell them. "Think about what your body knows how to do." The most surprising discovery came from studying alien children. Like human babies, they showed natural responses to water when given the chance. They held their breath automatically and moved their limbs in swimming motions. "We've been wrong for so long," Du-hyun said during a meeting with Earth's scientists. "We thought we were protecting our children by keeping them away from water. Instead, we were stopping them from developing natural abilities." 6 months into the project, the first alien colony on a water world was established. They chose a planet with vast oceans and small islands, similar to Earth's Pacific region. The colonists trained with human instructors before going, learning not just to survive near water, but to enjoy it. Dr. Minji visited the colony after its first month. She found the aliens had already built floating homes and underwater research stations. Children played in shallow pools, their scales shimmering with joy instead of fear. "This is more than just science," she wrote in her report. "This is evolution happening right before our eyes." The Galactic Confederation had to create new departments just to handle all the changes. The Water World Colonization Office received thousands of applications from species wanting to settle on previously ignored planets. The Aquatic Research Division couldn't train scientists fast enough to meet the demand for water adaptation studies. Kita led a team developing new technologies for water worlds. They created better underwater breathing systems, special vehicles for ocean travel, and floating cities that could house millions. All of these inventions came from combining alien technology with human understanding of water environments. Humans didn't just teach us how to swim, he told a group of student scientists. They taught us how to see water as a friend instead of an enemy. They showed us that what we fear most might actually be what we need most. Neri started the galaxy's first interspecies swimming competition. Aliens and humans raced together, each using their own unique ways of moving through water. The event became a symbol of how far they had come from the days when aliens thought water meant death. 1 year after first contact, Do Hyun stood on the beach near Busan with Dr. Yumi. They watched the sunset together, something he would never have imagined doing before. His scales had developed the same waterproof coating as Kita's, and he no longer needed any protection from the ocean spray. "Did you ever imagine this would happen?" he asked her. "That one simple thing like swimming would change the whole galaxy." Dr. Yumi smiled. "Sometimes the biggest changes come from the simplest things. We just had to show you that water wasn't something to fear." In the water before them, alien and human children played together in the waves. Their laughter mixed with the sound of the ocean, creating a melody that promised a future very different from the past. The galaxy had changed forever, all because humans never stopped to think that swimming might be impossible. 5 years had passed since humans first showed the galaxy that water worlds could support life. The Busan International Marine Research Center had grown into the Galactic Water Adaptation Institute, the largest research facility in known space. Its halls now held representatives from over 300 alien species, all learning to embrace water. Captain Do Hyun, now Admiral Do Hyun, stood in his favorite spot by the giant observation window. Below him, the Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly toward the horizon. He no longer felt fear when looking at its vast blue surface. Instead, he felt something humans called peace. "Admiral, the ceremony is about to begin," Kita said, approaching with a datapad. His scales now showed a permanent blue-green color, a sign of regular water exposure. "Everyone is waiting in the main hall." Today marked the opening of the first underwater city on a distant water world. Named New Busan, it would house millions of beings from different species. The city's design combined the best of human and alien technology, creating a place where water and air-breathing species could live together. In the main ceremony hall, Dr. Yoon, he stood at the podium. Her hair had some gray now, but her eyes still showed the same excitement they had when she first welcomed aliens to Earth. Behind her, a massive screen showed live images from New Busan. 5 years ago, she began, "We thought we were just teaching aliens how to swim. Instead, we started a revolution that changed the galaxy forever." She gestured to the screen, where alien children swam alongside human instructors in the city's public pools. Neri, now the head of the interspecies swimming program, sat in the front row. She remembered her first terrified step into a swimming pool. Now she could dive into deep ocean water without a second thought. Her scales had developed patterns that helped her move through water even faster than some humans. "Today, we have colonized 50 water worlds," Dr. Yumhee continued. "Our scientists have helped over 300 species activate their dormant water adaptation genes. But more importantly, we have shown that our greatest fears can become our greatest strengths." The screen showed images from different water worlds. On one, tall aliens with fin-like limbs had built floating farms that produced food for millions. On another, a species that once feared even the smallest drop of water had created underwater gardens of incredible beauty. Se-jin, the swimming instructor who had helped Neri take her first water steps, now ran the largest water adaptation school in the galaxy. His methods had been so successful that the Galactic Confederation made them the standard for all new colonists. Remember when they first arrived? Seijin whispered to Minji, who sat beside him, all wrapped up in those huge protection suits. They both smiled at the memory. Now, most aliens needed only minimal protection to swim, and many needed none at all. Dr. Minji had continued her genetic research, making breakthrough after breakthrough. Her team had discovered that exposure to water didn't just activate old genes, it could create new adaptations. Species that had never lived near water were developing abilities that surprised even her. The next generation will see water worlds differently, she had written in her latest research paper. For them, water will never be something to fear. It will be something to explore, to enjoy, to call home. In the ceremony hall, Du Hyun took the podium after Dr. Yuni. He looked out at the audience, humans and aliens sitting together, many of them dripping wet from their morning swims. The sight still amazed him. When I first came to Earth, he said, I thought I was studying a miracle. How humans survived on a water world. Now I know it wasn't a miracle at all. It was simply nature, showing us what we have forgotten. The screen behind him showed New Busan's main square, where fountains shot water high into the air. Alien children played in the spray while their parents washed without fear. Some species had developed special ways to play in water, creating new sports that combined their natural abilities with their new water skills. Ki-Te's research team had recently made another exciting discovery. They found that living near water made species more peaceful. Something about the ocean's rhythm, the feel of floating, the shared experience of swimming. It all helped different species understand each other better. Water doesn't just connect oceans, Ki-Te explained in his latest report. It connects species. When we swim together, we learn to trust each other. We learn to help each other. We learn to see past our differences. The ceremony included the graduation of the latest class from the Water Adaptation Program. One by one, beings from across the galaxy demonstrated their swimming skills in the Institute's main pool. Each had their own style, their own way of moving through water, but they all shared the same joy in doing it. Neri watched the graduates with pride. She remembered how many of them had arrived shaking with fear, just as she had. Now they moved through water as if they had been born to it. In a way, she realized, they had been. They just needed humans to remind them. The galaxy is changing, Du Hyun said near the end of his speech. We once thought water worlds were places of death. Now we know they are places of life, of growth, of coming together. And it all started because humans never learned to fear water. After the ceremony, Du Hyun walked with Dr. Yuni along the beach. It had become their tradition over the years, these sunset walks by the ocean. They watched as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. Some of those stars have water worlds orbiting them, Du Hyun said. Worlds that are becoming homes for millions. All because you showed us how to swim. Dr. Yumhee smiled. We didn't just show you how to swim, she said. We showed you how to trust, how to adapt, how to overcome fear. The swimming was just the beginning. In the waves before them, the evening swimming class was finishing up. Aliens and humans moved through the water together, their forms silhouetted against the setting sun. Their laughter carried across the water, a sound that would have seemed impossible just 5 years ago. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Water worlds, once marked as places of death, had become centers of life and learning. Species that once feared each other now swam together, lived together, grew together. And it all started with one simple truth that humans had known all along. Water wasn't meant to be feared. It was meant to be explored.